So hi everybody, Steve Cady here, and we are with our Teaching Online Transition learning community at BGSU and globally with a lot of friends that have come in from all different places and spaces, which is awesome. And we just did a little bit of impromptu networking in Zoom. I put everybody in pairs for 4 minutes to talk about something. We came back and the question was, to talk about how you're doing, what you're learning, and how this was going, the sessions and so forth that we're doing, and then came back and then did another 4 minutes, sent people out, so about 2 minutes each to have another conversation. And people were randomly assigned, and so some people got to see the same person twice, some people got to see somebody that they knew really well, some people found probably interesting connections and so forth. So I'll be interested to hear how it went, and let's do a check-in. What we'll do, this is another technique that's kind of fun with a check-in on Zoom, is you can have everybody here and say, okay, somebody's going to go and here's the question, and you pick who goes next. And so what we'll do is I'll pick somebody to start. So I think let's see, I think who should start? I think Brooke should start. And so Brooke, you share with us just a little summary of your conversations that you had. How you're doing. If you have a question you're bringing today that you need some help on, what's a question that would help you? Maybe anything else that you'd like to share about the process, how this is going, and any suggestions you might have. So why don't you check in and then pick who goes next after you're done.
All right, well, sounds good. So I'm new to these meetings. This is my first time attending. I got to meet with both Laura and Gwendolyn. We both just kind of talked about how we're all transitioning to this teaching online right now. I don't think we're exactly extremely familiar with this. It's new, which of course brings in some new stresses. I'm a 4-H agent. I live in Southeast Tennessee and I work for the University of Tennessee. We are trying to still educate and be very active. We've kind of held some small meetings, but we're going to try to transition into some larger meetings. So if you have any tips on how to kind of guide those, I really enjoyed that breakout session. I think that was really cool. But I'm just kind of here for tips and any tricks in general that you guys have to share, and I appreciate you guys putting this together for us and sharing it globally. I do appreciate that.
So Brooke, again, where are you at now?
Southeast Tennessee.
All right, great. And you're working, who are you working with?
The University of Tennessee and both our county. I'm a 4-H agent for McMinn County specifically.
Awesome, that's great.
And so I work with all of the youth here. 4-H of course is agriculture, but we're many other things. So we're trying to kind of keep all that stuff rolling right now.
Awesome.
A lot of contests that we're trying to transition to online. So all kinds of fun stuff to figure out. So yeah.
My boys are right now building a chicken coop with their grandpa.
Awesome.
And they've been doing that for the week and helping. We live on a farm here in Ohio, outside of Bowling Green. And we have six little chicks downstairs that we're taking care of, and we just had to clean up some poopy butt off some chickens yesterday. And my 6-year-old son is having fun going, ooh, ooh, ooh. How do you clean poopy butts on chicks? So
nothing like learning those life skills at a good young age.
Well, I'm glad you're here. Thanks. In terms of managing online large meetings with large numbers of people, one of the things that I'm particularly interested in, and that's where I do research as well as do work, is in large-scale change, and particularly collaborative processes and using technology. Technology, there's an article I wrote, I can share it with you. Teo, maybe you can put it in there on designing collaborative events. It's a little 2x2 table, and I'll share it with you all in a minute. But it's a table for design. So if you could, the one on, it's an organization development review, it's a table, and when you think of technology, there's electrical technology and mechanical technology, right? So a flip chart and a chalkboard or a whiteboard, those are mechanical technologies, and Zoom is an electrical technology. So they're different, and then there's synchronous and asynchronous, right? So there's real time like we are right now, and then there's asynchronous, which is like overtime, and then the third variable is in person or online. And and so sometimes we're near each other or we're far from each other. And so in designing large groups and with any of those variables, how do you do that? And how do you, what are the right activities and so forth? Teo can also get you, if you could put in there maybe the app for the Collaborative Change Library. You might have already done that, but if you can, Teo, if you can put in the chat that, a book I have on collaborative change, it's called the Change Handbook. The new edition, we went from a paperback to a digital print version, and we created an app that has all the chapters and has all these different techniques listed in it. It's still being developed, but I'll give you all like free access to it so you can go through and read the chapters from the contributors. We have like 70, 80 different methodologies in there, and you can learn, find out about it. But there's lots of ways to do it. It can be done, and be glad to share that with you. And then if you have more questions, you can always ask Teo. He's really good at this and working with it. There's some different technologies that are out there that can help you manage like large conferences, you know, and those kinds of things. So glad that you're here. Who would you like to go next?
Let's say, how about Lynn? She's right beside me. So.
Hey, Lynn.
Hey, Steve and everyone. I have really enjoyed the online webinars. I had taken workshops in the past, but never really put it into practice. I talked with Gwendolyn and Carol and got a little background on why they were here, and I have dropped in and out. I like that it's offered twice a week. I kind of took over last time and changed the topic to get all my questions answered about online quizzing. I didn't mean to do that, but
that was awesome. That was fantastic. That's what these sessions are about. We go where we need to go, and so that was for all of you. When I think I've posted it. If I haven't, it will be posted. Tuesday to Thursday goes fast, so I maybe haven't, but it will be posted by tomorrow. Both of them in a little summary. That was a great discussion on test questions.
Well, good. I like that you post the videos because I need to go back and remember a couple of the details. The other thing that I like about Steve's feedback is that when people impose their own techniques on other individuals, he draws them back to reminding people that every course is different and people's backgrounds are different. And so I think it's a very collaborative, inviting environment, and that's thanks to you, Steve.
Thanks, Lynn. I appreciate that. Great. So I love the Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's just gonna keep going. I just checking in and this is great. So Lynn, where are you? Tell people where you are, and what department you're in and where you're at.
I'm in exercise science, and I'm sitting at home now. I'm on a farm outside Bowling Green also, but the opposite direction of Steve. But we don't have any animals. That's a lot of work. So yeah. Beside me is Fernanda.
Hi, Fernanda.
Hi, everybody. I talked with Patrick and Laura in the breakout rooms. And with Patrick, I learned something really interesting about the Zoom bombing. How uninvited people just kind of show up in the meeting and then share, information that may not be appropriate. So I hadn't heard that was going on because I guess there are so many URLs that are available. And so then some people just try to just figure out what these possible URLs are, and they just kind of just interrupt meetings. So Steve, have you heard about this Zoom bombing?
Yeah, just the other day, and there's been something about the encryption and stuff like that on Zoom. I'll preface all of my comments with I love Zoom. I think Zoom is a great tool and very useful. I think WebEx is a super tool. I think the big blue button is a super tool. They all have limitations. Different ones work for us in different ways. So, but the Zoom bombing, I will tell you, and I was going to talk about this, early on when I was using technology in my classes, I literally would go into a class of 200 students in the lecture room. I told them to bring their computers, and this was probably 8 years ago, and I brought a Google Doc up on the screen and made it editable by anybody with a link and gave it out. And we as a class started playing games and doing things on there and typing. And you saw literally 100 people typing on a document and saying stuff. And I would try different things to get them like sharing ideas. But invariably in that classroom at Bowling Green State University, I had students writing the most awful things on there, inappropriate. And it was shocking. And you know what I did is I paused and I let it go. And I paused and I stopped and we talked about it as a class. And we talked about sociopaths and we talked about other types of personality and other types of things that people do and inappropriate behaviors and human behavior in organizations. Everybody in that class is going to be in a job in an organization with lots of people. And, you know, 1 out of 20 people is a sociopath. So I said, look around the room. So what are you going to do when you're working, managing, and having to be with someone who can say something like that because of the anonymity? And we had a discussion with that person sitting in the room. You know, I had another situation where I had a document for an online class, and a woman who was in my class, and it was a document that students could add to. It was a script for a simulation that I was creating, and the students were playing with it. One student was she's a firefighter, and she apparently was doing the class from the firehouse, and one of the other firefighters thought that they were going to be funny and got onto the document while she walked away from it and typed some of the most lewd things you could ever imagine into the document. And it was, and what did I do with that, right? So I used it as a learning moment. I corrected it. I paused, and I brought it into the learning for the moment, and I didn't let it faze me because people do that all the time. So it's going to happen. You see it on the, you go to some, like on YouTube, some of the most inspirational, thoughtful videos. Go down and read the comments below. And they will say, some people will say things, and that's just, you know what? Our world is not full of people, because I think our world is full of people that are good-hearted, loving people. I think our world is full of good-hearted people that sometimes make bad choices. And then I think our world is full of some really mean people, evil people. And we just have got to be prepared. We got to teach our students how to deal with that. So anyway, so Zoom bombing, I'm not afraid of it. I just tell my students, someone may Zoom bomb us. They might do inappropriate stuff. If they do, I don't get fazed by it. I go, this is what it is. I teach them about it, and we talk about it as a part of whatever aspect of the class I can bring it into. What are your thoughts, Fernanda?
Well, thank you for sharing that. I think that kind of helps us to think about how to address a situation like that. I think that's great. Using it as a learning tool, a learning moment, that is. The other person that I talked with was Laura, and we talked about the courses that I'm teaching. Some of the ESOL students, the English as Second Language learners that we've had, have sent over to her program for pronunciation work. So that was interesting, just you know, talking to her about that. We also talked about whether to continue 2 days a week or 1 day a week, and we both like attending these sessions twice a week. Laura pointed out that in each session she's learning, you know, something really important that she wouldn't have thought of. So things that we can apply. So we're both in favor of continuing twice a week.
Okay, cool. And don't feel responsible to have to come every time, even though I see you almost every time. Don't, if you miss, that's fine. I'm happy to. Teo and I are tag teaming on this. So there's been a time where I couldn't make it because I was in a department meeting. And so we're fine. And so I think we'll keep doing it Tuesdays and Thursdays. And please send it to friends. And the document, Teo, if you can put the document in the link, even though everybody has it, just to remind you all, just share that document. There's a little blurb you can share with people so that they can come.
It's there right now, the very first entry in your chat. Any of you that are new here, I think, Brooke, you said maybe this is your first time on Zoom or just your first time in this session?
Just the first time in this session.
Okay, so if you're all familiar with the Zoom chat, the little speech bubble to the right on the bottom next to the green share screen button, the chat has content for you, and the very first link there is to our share capture document in Google Docs that all of you are welcome to edit and add to as you see fit. Patrick actually has added a new resource on our testing conversation that maybe he'll speak to in a little bit. I just wanted to offer real quick on the Zoom bombing. We use Zoom for church, for example, and so there are some ways that maybe if you do want to, record a session, you want to make sure it doesn't happen, to have that teachable moment. One of the easiest ways I would suggest to use is when you have a session that you set up, use the waiting room feature, which the host can then enable one by one or a whole batch, but the host has basically the ability to admit participants into the session. So somebody can just show up and bing, there they are, and you're now exposed to what they want to share with you. There are other ways to think about.
Yeah,
sorry.
and the other feature is let people register for the session. That they have to register, and then they have to get a link and have to put, but yet they could find the link and get in and still play with it. So you can put some of these features in. You can always remove somebody from it, and if you have the feature where people can't unmute, you can also do that. You just mute them. You set your features, your settings so that people can't unmute themselves. However, I would save that for when you have that happens, and just figure out how to quickly turn the that feature on. And so there's a way that you click on your settings real quick and then do that. Patrick will probably have a couple points. Patrick, do you have something you want to say? You're on mute.
Yeah, I just, not to jump too far ahead of it, but the issue that we're dealing with right now, we're seeing with Zoom, is that Zoom has about 1 million active URLs at a time with the way that their codes are structured. And some individuals wrote a script that essentially goes to all the possible URLs constantly and tries to identify an active one. And so the moment it gets that response back that this meeting is active, then they post it to a chat board with a whole bunch of people who are looking to do this. And so I'm going to share in the resource page for Zoom in particular. I got one off of one of my my forums here, a list of things you should do when this happens. The couple things you've been saying are perfect, right? When it happens, don't do this by default. When it happens, enable the feature, mute everybody and don't let them unmute themselves, prevent your attendees from sharing content, and then you basically stop them. They can join your meeting, they can be in the list, but they can't talk and they're not going to be able to share any content on your screen. So it's not, I would say, that you need to stop using Zoom or stop using any tool because of these bombers. I think you just need to have a little toolkit, maybe like something in your email that you can quickly get to, or have it open during meetings in case something happens, so that these 3 button clicks will essentially shut it all down. Because the thing that we're seeing, though, is there is a feature in Zoom to expel people or to kick them out of the meeting, and it does prevent them from rejoining. But like with most things that people troll, the moment you kick someone out of your meeting, that is setting the bait for everyone else in that chat room now all to come at once. So the better, I think, answer is to just mute all your participants and to prevent them from sharing content so your meeting can go forward.
Yeah. So and so I haven't had the problem yet. I don't know why I haven't. I'm meeting all day long with I'm like right now at 12, I'm meeting with my students at 12 o'clock. And I meet every day with my students in different classes almost. So I haven't had the problem yet.
The best estimate is that it's happening to maybe 1 out of like 10,000 chats at a time, right? There's so many of these going on that they can't hit all of them. And the Zoom feature basically times you out after you've attempted to join too many meetings. So it really has to have, they can't do this every single meeting all the time, but it is possible, and we just want people to be aware. I mean, this can happen. I don't want to make it sound like this is a Zoom issue. This can happen in WebEx. This can happen in Big Blue Button. This can happen in any tool where you have the ability to share a link. So the other thing we're recommending is be very cognizant of who you're sharing your link with, because a really quick way to make sure this happens to you is to put your link somewhere public, because once your link is searchable on the internet or on a website or something, or in a page that isn't locked down, it's much easier to get into. So if you are sharing your link somewhere, make sure you're doing it in a site where someone has to log in, like Canvas, or at least sending it through email so that only the intended audience is getting it.
These people need to go get a video game and just play a video game, right? I mean, it's like, what's going on, man?
Unfortunately, I think this is their video game, right? Like,
it is.
It's
like,
video game.
It's amazing. But again, this is the world we live in. It is the world. It's always been. Our world's not getting any worse. Just go read Mark Twain
Yep.
Go read Mark Twain's writings on society, and you'll feel like it's today. So.
Yep. And again, I think the goal here is to just be prepared. Just know that it can happen and what to do when it does, so that you aren't, you're not canceling class because, or a meeting because someone jumped in.
So why don't you keep going? I think, Fernanda, you were last, right? And then we just kind of, I can't remember where we went. We
Yes,
were at Lynn.
Yes,
we at
I'm the
Lynn?
last one. So I get to choose now?
Yeah.
Let's have Carol. Carol.
Hello. I got to have Teo as my partner, and Teo is my partner in doing the work around the Change Library and Steve's doctoral program. So it was a wonderful check-in. And then I got to speak with Lynn. And if I had the ability to take a snapshot of her face when I asked her about, should we do this twice a week, it would have told it all. There is no question that it should be twice a week. And I've been doing this kind of work and am much more of a learning user than an expert, probably for 30 years. And I'm in awe of how quickly the uptake of the technology in every generation has been here. And I concur that I'm learning something every single time we have these meetings. So I think it's well worth 2 hours a week. And I will choose Laura.
Hey, I had the opportunity to speak with Brooke and Fernanda, and always fun to talk to folks that I don't know from Tennessee, and then Fernanda, who's like across campus. So I do, like Fernanda said, I gain a little nugget of wisdom every time I tune into one of these. So yay. The one thing that I'm finding difficult is I am being bombarded by so many different resources that might be helpful to me. And I struggle with knowing what to spend my time with, because I can't read all these documents that I get sent about this might be helpful, this might be helpful, this might be helpful. I struggle. I'm being bombarded and I don't know what to do, and it's a little overwhelming.
Yeah, can I give you a one thought I have on
Yes, absolutely.
I think it might be the top, if you think of a top 10 list of things to do in your online learning and focus on the tasks versus the resources.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, first thing that you want to do is start holding regularly scheduled video conferencing with your class, right?
Mm-hmm.
Second thing you want to do is you want to create mini video lectures on key topics. The third thing you want to do is something else. And so you identify your top 5 or 6 things that really work in the teaching, and then just start working them through and saying, how do I do this one? How do I do this one? How do I do this one? And when the resources pop up, just throw them in a library and just kind of look at them as you go. And maybe if it's interesting to you, read them. But I would use the task to drive your learning agenda, kind of like situated learning, like we do when we give a student a problem and they have to figure out how to solve it. I would go in reverse, so you're not feeling like you're missing something. Because you've been coming to these, we could easily make a list with you, like, what are you doing now? And what might be your next thing to work on? And I would use these sessions to say, what's my next little task to work on in my class? How's my class going? What's the thing I need help on? And just stay focused on your class and what you need help on and the task that you're trying to do, or the feature or the technique you're trying to incorporate. And just do one at a time is what I would do. And let all these resources kind of park them, put them somewhere, as you go.
Great. Yeah, I've been parking them in a folder on my desktop, and they're still parked. They might get a parking ticket soon, but
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I try to work my way through it. It just seems so overwhelming
Yeah.
sometimes. And I just quietly close my computer and say, well, maybe tomorrow I'll do that one.
Yeah. I would only focus on I would do it in reverse. Because I love all this stuff. I have so much that I wish I had read. I've got books that people sent me. I still haven't gotten to that are, I think are really amazing, right? So I'm just living my life now on one task at a time versus one resource at a time.
Good advice.
So
Yeah.
I have to interject that one of the biggest nuggets that I got in I'm having exactly the same problem, and it's not in terms of resources. It's in terms of how many people are doing online Zoom meetings about all different subjects that I'm interested in. And I was on one with a whole group of collaborative change experts, and somebody said, I'm suffering from a new disease, Zoom fatigue. And boy, did I relate to that. So I'm giving that to anybody who I have a chance, that it's normal to have this other form of disease that's going around.
Yeah. So
Laura,
Laura, who
I
would you like to go?
interrupted you.
Yeah, Laura, who would you like to go next?
How about Russ?
Hey, Russ.
Okay, here's Russ. I was partnered up twice with Ashley. And first, Ashley is involved in a nonprofit. She's located in Ohio that delivers online training to grade to middle school students in that area. And so her boss told her to drop in, gave her this link and said, drop in on Next 4 Exchange's little community here. And so she's here for the first time. And I'm here for the first time. And so this is new to us. I forgot to ask her, and we will at the end of this, whether she wants to continue. I certainly would be quite interested in continuing with this kind of dialogue. My background is that most of my career was in high technology and then business process design and optimization. But a good friend of mine from way, way back who founded OD Network Canada and OD Network Toronto, and he graduated as a systems engineer, became an OD professional, and that was his whole career. And he took Hewlett Packard virtual in one of their great crises about 15, 20 years ago. And then he left Hewlett Packard, and he and I formed a little company about 10 years ago to focus on virtual teams, virtual organizations, and discovered in the process that the real need out there were virtual trainers who were being forced to deliver training virtually to adults because the companies couldn't afford to get them all in one spot at a time. And so we developed that whole area as well. And just as background, we've published 3 books in the area, Managing Virtual Teams. One is more or less Managing Virtual Teams, and the second one is on Managing Virtual Meetings, which we just turned into a free book on our website because we were charging for it before, only available as a PDF, and anybody who wants it can go to virtualeteams.com and just click on it and you've got the PDF. And these books are all pragmatic, practical, pragmatic books. And our third book was a book on blended learning. And one of the things that I'd be happy to do at maybe next meeting or the meeting after is just share a single diagram about the pioneering architecture for a blended learning course that we developed with a world-class professor named Marilyn Lakin, who's kind of retired, but still the director of some heavy-duty programs at York University. And so why am I here is because I'm still intrigued by this whole area. As a retired individual, my current job is I'm a heavy-duty, hard-working director of the Toronto Railway Museum, which we've been developing for 18 years. And I'm heavily involved in that. And I'm applying organizational development and just learning stuff to that as well. So I'm just kind of curious. And both he and I, my partner and I, currently are saying, how can we help all you folks out there? And we're even looking to see how we can make our books available dirt cheap. One's available through Amazon right now. We can't reduce it to $0 because Amazon won't print it for $0. And so we're just beginning to look how we might offer our books as inexpensively as possible, if not free. We already have one for free. And so maybe
what's the name of the museum?
I'll just leave it. Maybe Ashley wants to say a little more. I talked a lot, and I did with Ashley too.
So Russ, what was the music? What's the museum you're in charge of?
It's called the Toronto Railway Museum.
That's awesome. When I bring my family to Toronto, I'm coming to see your museum.
Yeah, if and when they'll let you travel,
Right,
and
right.
if you happen to be coming, give a shout out to me on the odd chance that I could be there. I don't live
Awesome.
in Toronto. I live in St. Catharines, but I'm down there fairly often when I
Okay,
could.
I will definitely take you up on that. I have 3 boys, 6 years old, 13, and 17. So
Oh, they'd love it.
yeah, so we'll have to take the train over and then hang out in Toronto. So I love doing that. Thanks,
Here,
great.
here.
Thanks, Russ. Thanks for being here. Teo's going to follow up with you afterwards because on this app that he's put on there, we would probably, I think, be more than happy to make your content available to people. We can take all your content all in one spot, and people can create their own creative little books out of it, and you can make it available free to them through it, and they can
Okay.
create their books and stuff. We're working to get it to where they can print it if they want, or have it digitally, and that they can on demand print, have it mailed to them, or pick it up at a local Kinko's or something like that. So we can share that with you, and this might be a way to help you make your stuff available in a way that you want.
Sure.
So I
That's
think
what we're looking for at the present time.
yeah, and we developed this because of my same desire with the book the Change Handbook now. So that's awesome, Russ. And
Russ, to put an email in the chat for me.
My email, sure.
Awesome, thank you.
yeah,
Russ, who's your co-author?
John Wagner, Wagner.
that's awesome. We can make that available to our faculty here, your book online for virtual teams and stuff like that. I'll put that in our online document that we have, but also send it out. So that's great, Russ. Thank you for coming and sharing that. Hi, Ashley. You want to say hi and check it? Are you able to use your video, Ashley, at all?
Yes, I am not currently. I'm on a computer
Okay.
that doesn't support video capability,
Okay.
but I will hopefully have something better for next Tuesday. So
Awesome.
I will be joining again. So kind of like Russ said, thank you, Russ, for kind of helping introduce me. I am based in Ohio. I actually think, Dr. Caddy, I had you as professor at BGSU.
Awesome. Did you
for
do
an
well in
online-
the class?
What?
Did you do well in the class?
Yes, I did. I did do really well in the class. It was a great class. It was online. It was a management class.
Yep. Awesome.
Awesome. Yeah. So I am in McClure, Ohio. I still live in Bowling Green, but I work in McClure, and I work at a nonprofit where we develop curriculum and teach it to kids in middle schools and high schools. We usually go into the schools. Right now, obviously, with everything going on, we're trying to transition to virtual. And so that's kind of why I'm here. Like Russ said, my boss said, hey, here's a link, maybe you should hop on. And I said, okay. And because we're kind of struggling with how do we reach students using a feature like Zoom, or how do we reach students using virtual classes, because our curriculum is not mandatory. It is not a part of their core classes. And so trying to get students to still be active and learning, even though it's not necessarily required by them. So we want to entice them to be able to come to our classes that we host on Zoom.
Great. Is there anything you have a question on that we can be helpful to you on today?
Not right now. I'm kind of just here taking some notes about everything that you guys talk about, and I'll join probably almost every session just because we're on obviously the work from home too. And so these webinars are extremely helpful for just learning different things and tools and things like that. So I'll probably come with questions maybe next time, but right now I'm good.
Sure, yeah. And we'll try to, sometimes we have a hot topic. Sometimes a hot topic emerges, and because someone brings something really cool that resonates with everybody, and we keep everything documented on that document link that Teo shared in the chat. So you can have access. We have a YouTube playlist that you can sign up for and some other things. So yeah, that's great. Well, welcome, Ashley. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad to see you again. I bet you got the gold nail award in my class, didn't you?
What'd you say?
Did you get the gold nail award in my class?
I don't think so.
I think you did. You had to if you did well.
I did do well. I did very well in your class, but I don't think. Oh, I did. Did you send an email? I do remember.
Yeah,
I remember.
Yes, you did. I know.
Okay, I did. Yes, I did.
All right. Awesome. So that's great. So who do we have? I think we have Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn, you want to check in and say hi?
Yes, hi everyone. Next time I come on, I'll be live. You'll be able to see me. I'm new. This is my first session. I had conversation with Brooke and Lynn. Lynn gave me some stellar advice to tell me not to try to do everything. You take it slowly. And Brooke and I were in the same kind of space in that this is new. I'm in Detroit, Michigan, and my work has been with movement makers, organizers, advocates, nonprofit organizations, and I have projects going on, uh, organizing, coordinating a census coalition. I have a mentoring program. I teach grant writing at Wayne County Community College, and I consult with design and facilitate large group decision-making sessions. And all of that came to an end. And I have attended Nexus sessions and have been so fascinated with the technology that's used. I thought that this was a place where I could bring my timid self into discussion so that I can learn Zoom, that I can learn how to bring people together in the classroom, how to bring adversaries together for large group decision making. And just today to see that I could go into impromptu networking and groups, that is so awesome. So I was wondering, how do I translate that human connection that seemed to be necessary for folks to desire to want to work together? How could I translate that into technology? And I am seeing the possibility of it, and I appreciate uh, this learning that I have had today. And one of the things that struck me was when you were talking, Steve, about your real-time experience. Well, I know about real-time work, and it was a tool, but you have to have a real-time consciousness to be able to do what you did, I believe. And then when we talked about, let's see, there was another point that was made, situated learning, that's what you called it, situated learning. So that's the way I'm entering in this work, because as I said, I have these projects and initiatives I'm working on, and I want to know how to do it using this technology. So I appreciate this opportunity, and I appreciate meeting Brooke and Lynn, and that is what made me see how the heart space can be translated into technology. Thank you.
That's awesome. Big hug to you, Gwendolyn. It's good to hear your voice. I look forward to seeing you next time. And
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
yeah, awesome. So I'll pick up Patrick, and then Teo will wrap us up because we're getting close to the end of the hour. And this has been a nice check-in. So Patrick, you want to share some of your thoughts, maybe reflections on what other people have shared and so forth?
Yeah, the big thing that we talked about so far, that I talked about in my breakouts, was a little bit of the Zoom stuff and the Zoom bombing. We obviously talked about that to some extent. I want to say that I apologize for not being here last time to talk about the quiz stuff. There is a working group with some of IT staff and the provost staff on quizzes and how we're going to do, what support we're going to be able to provide. I added an item to the document that's a way to secure your quizzes without having to go to Respondus. I just want to update as many people as I can on this, that we're finding that Respondus as a company is not going to support personal Chromebooks, and they have no interest in changing that stance. So I've already identified about 40 students that were asked to take Respondus-based quizzes and do not have anything but a Chromebook at home. And the university's current response and what we've been working on is sending those students a university laptop through the mail. However, I can tell you, at least anecdotally, a few of those students are across the country. So it can take, now with their shipping times, 3 to 4 days, maybe even a little longer to get them a laptop. So if you are someone that's considering using Respondus in your class, I'd recommend maybe only for your final exam, and giving everybody tons of heads up. Give them a practice test early on to test so that they can identify that they're going to have these issues. Because what we want to avoid is a situation where a student goes to take their final exam within, a day of it being due, only to find that their device is not supported, and they're in California, and the earliest we could get them a device is 4 days, and now you as an instructor have to decide how you want to handle that. So if you are planning on using this fund, just get it out there early and let your students know so that they can identify what they need to make sure that happens for them.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. And we had a really good discussion. I'll get that. You might want to share that discussion because it was a good faculty. It was a good discussion of a lot of different things that might help your committee and task force see some kind of a focus group conversation around testing and our thoughts on that. So thank you, Patrick. And Pat, Taya, you want to wrap this up and then we'll say goodbye for today.
Sure. This is always fantastic. Russ, I was looking at the screen earlier and couldn't figure out why your name sounds familiar. I'm pretty sure that the Virtual Teams book is sitting downstairs on my desk. And downstairs, like my normal office is right below where Steve is sitting. So I think that's where I know that name, but I had no context. Now I do. Thank you. I appreciate all you being here, especially those that maybe don't have the direct link to the university, because I think there is a real great interchange. And Brooke and Gwendolyn, the kind of thing, Ashley, that you're bringing to us, that is helpful in terms of the perspective shift that I think we need to remind ourselves to make, that sometimes it's really easy to get stuck in, sort of a singular focus at the moment. So the diversity of the stuff that you've brought today, I appreciate and always appreciate about these sessions.
Hey, Teo, can I add one thing? Hey, Russ, one of the things, Patrick, that I want to offer to you all is you can reach out to people here and talk to them offline, right? So you all, I think, Patrick, you ought to invite Russ to come join a meeting with your team. I mean, here's a guy who's worked with, and he could probably bring his partner on the transformation they did, at a major company. And also they've helped a lot of other people in addition to that, and they've had lots of experience. And maybe there's something there, or maybe you take Ashley and invite, in the work that she's having in the local nonprofit going, and maybe it's a two-way street. Maybe your committee can learn a few things, and maybe you share some stuff with Ashley's group that helps them, or maybe they share and just visit you for 30 minutes to share what they're learning. And Russ could probably give you all some really good advice as well, and probably wouldn't mind doing that. I'm just encouraging you all to think about, let's reach out across one-on-one and offline, reach out to each other as we want. And all you have to do in the chat is say, hey, I want to talk to you later. Then give me your email and get the email. So
that's a perfect segue to what I was going to say, is that I've really struggled with this word of social distancing. For me, it's physical distancing with social connection. And so I appreciate having that with you this morning.
Yeah, it's really good to see everybody. It makes my day always a better day when I've been here with you all. And so it's really nice. So have a great day, and we'll see each other in a few days on Tuesday. You'll be getting an email because I go and I repopulate my email blast, and I'll be sending out an email blast. And so because you signed up and put your email in, you'll be getting something reminding you of Tuesday and giving you the link to the playlist and all that stuff, which is all in that document, so you won't miss anything. So bye for now, and have a great rest of the day. Thanks for being here, Patrick. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.